So I thought I'd share my thoughts on the new Roku Streaming Stick 4K. I'm a previous Roku user, so I'm pretty familiar with the interface. But the big thing I wanted to get from the new version was the fact that it's got enhanced Dolby Vision support, and also it's got supposedly improved Wi-Fi connectivity and speeds as well. So I thought I'd start off with a quick unboxing. As you can see, um, basically it all comes in a very small box. You get the actual stick itself. You get a power adapter, which has got a UK pin, 3-pin adapter, and also it comes with a continental adapter as well. And you just plug it in, snap and lock, and you're ready to go with that the power supply. So the actual stick itself is pretty small. It's about the same size as the previous model, which was the Roku Streaming 4 Plus. And underneath here you've got the remote, and you've also got the cable, the USB cable, which has the Wi-Fi antenna in it as well. Remote hasn't really changed a great deal. It's got a slightly different feel to it compared to the previous generation. The previous generation was a smooth plastic. This is actually much more textured plastic, but still feels quite plasticky, but it's very nice to use, and the buttons have more of a click action now. It's somewhat louder than I think the previous model, but it's still a really pleasant remote to use. And it comes with a couple of batteries, so you've got everything you need in the box to get you going. So setting up the Roku is pretty straightforward. Literally you plug it into an HDMI port in the back, you connect up the USB lead with the Wi-Fi antenna, plug that into the power supply, plug that into a socket in the wall, and you're pretty much good to go. As soon as you turn on, the remote will actually pair with the Roku itself, and then you can go through the setup, as I'm doing here, of connecting it up to my Wi-Fi, which is fairly straightforward. Found the local Wi-Fi router, no trouble at all, and connected on a 5G connection, and then it actually goes through and it updates, makes sure it's got the latest version of the Roku operating system, which on this version was 10.5.1, and then it reboots and it takes you into the next step of actually setting up the Roku itself. So here it allows you to pick the, it automatically detects the display type, and going through this it will actually determine the capabilities of your TV set. So in this case I've got a TCL 4K QLED TV that does support Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. It's the, I think, C815K model from TCL. Normally runs the Android TV OS, but I prefer using the Roku. I find it much quicker, less buggy, less buffering, and I think there's better app support as well with the Roku, so that's why I went that way. Now initially when I was setting up the Roku, you can use the remote to actually control the TV itself, so you can control the volume and can turn it on and off, and normally this is a very simple process to do with a Roku. However, I did find that when I was during the initial setup, the remote wouldn't recognize the actual TV itself, so it couldn't power it on. It would control the volume, and when I actually went to search for the brand TCL, you'll see that it doesn't actually come back with any search results. Later on, once I'd actually set the Roku up, and then I went into the settings menu and down to the remotes menu, I was able to do this again, and it worked absolutely perfectly first time. And the remote happily turns the TV on and off, controls the volume, mutes it, everything you'd expect the remote to do. So I'm not entirely sure why that didn't work during the actual first setup, but just something to bear in mind if you actually find this yourself. The next step, once you've actually set up the remote, is to actually activate your Roku by actually logging into your Roku account. If you haven't got a Roku account, you can create one. It's fairly straightforward. I think there are actually, if you look on the internet, there's guides to actually setting up the Roku without actually having a Roku account. But to be honest, I find having a Roku account no hassle whatsoever. It then goes through quite a lengthy period, and this must have been taken about 20 minutes of actually updating all the channels on the Roku, applying a series of updates, and during that time you will get a series of fairly strange messages as it updates them. So you get this maximizing fun factor, engaging warp drive, lots and lots of pretty meaningless stuff, I presume to keep you entertained whilst it's actually progressing. But anyway, once that's done, Roku's good to go. So here you see I've switched from my Android TV to my HDMI channel 1. It's detected the Roku. The Roku's come up and it's signified that actually it had Dolby Vision. And then I've actually gone through the process and shortcut here where I've actually gone and set up all my apps and all my subscriptions. So I've got Netflix. So here you can see that the interface and the control is very smooth, very quick, very responsive. Starting a movie is pretty quick. You can see Dolby Atmos kicking in. Normally the TCL TV would actually also bring up Dolby Vision as well to indicate that it's playing back using that particular format. However, currently with the TCL, there's a bit of a bug at the moment where it doesn't always display the Dolby Vision symbol. It gives you the Dolby Atmos, but not necessarily the Dolby Vision. But that's just a quirk of the TV. That's not actually anything to do with the Roku itself, which is clearly outputting a Dolby Vision signal and a Dolby Atmos audio signal as well. I'll say Amazon Prime exactly the same, except there's not a great deal of Dolby Vision content on Amazon Prime, so most of it is HDR and HDR10. But once again, very responsive, very slick interface, very smooth, very responsive. Things start pretty quick. Absolutely no complaints there at all. The other advantages with the Roku compared to the likes of the Android TV is on the Android TV, certainly on the TCL, I find that there is an audio lag and a latency, so where the speech isn't in sync with what's going on screen. With the Roku, no such problems at all, perfectly in time. Disney Plus, once again, very faster loading, much faster loading than on my Android TV, even though it seems like it's hanging around and a little bit laggy here. It's not at all. And once you're actually into the app itself, it's very quick, very responsive, and actually starting movies is very quick as well. And nearly all the Dolby, or majority of certainly Disney's latest releases are all, ultra HD, Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, and they look absolutely fantastic. On the TCL C815 is a fairly sort of like budget QLED TV, but nevertheless the colours pop. It's the motion's controlled really well. It's really the kind of device that should be built into it, and I think the later TCL TVs actually come with a Roku operating system as standard. And once again, YouTube, iPlayer, all your normal apps are there. Very quick, very fast loading. It's just an absolute joy to use. What I would say about the new stick, and what I notice is the big difference compared to the Streaming Stick Plus, which is a couple of years old now. Connecting to the Wi-Fi, doing the Netflix tests to see how fast the actual broadband connection is, typically would get around about 70 to 80 megabits per second, something like that. This Roku Streaming Stick 4K, I'm up in the 260 megabits per second. Why is that important? If you have your own sort of media server in the house and you've got content on there, and that's 4K content, quite often you can be transferring a good 100 megabits plus. I think even Sony is starting to now to specify sort of a minimum connection speed to fully support some of the material that they're putting out. So this will actually connect to your local sources far quicker than the old Rokus could. And also, if you're connecting to the internet and you've got an internet connection that is high enough, it will also do that as well. You'll see the benefits of it. So overall, I would say this is a really worthwhile upgrade if you've got a Roku, or if you're coming from another streaming stick. I don't think you'll be disappointed by the Roku Streaming Stick 4K.